store would like to offer a flower for Dread, for the family. We tied on to this branches, a couple roots, a pepper tree, and put some rosemary's on there in my yard. And with your intentions, that's why I came today to honor Dread. Politics are coming down to the cause they have been. He was. Well, first of all, honor him, his spirit. Give the respect where the respect is due. And we know why there's problems in our communities. We know why there's violence. We know why some of the politicians don't like us because we want them to pay their fair share. So we know that before we can address that is have some respect for the family. Give the blessings and the prayers, whatever your belief is, whatever nationality you are. Come with this. And also we have a lady here, a young lady named Pamela. She's also meeting her son. That's nobody, not nobody. The word is Kiche Uchasha. Just walk in a common way. The prayers are very simple. They're very serious. Respect from the littlest to the oldest, wherever you come from.
We are Ezzard man. It's recognized by Ezzard as Ensign. And so just take a moment to recognize what this is, where we're at, and those who are here before us. Right? And so right now, Maestro, is it okay to go ahead and introduce Jamila? I want to introduce you, Dread.
Thank you everybody for coming out today to honor a wonderful man who made an impact on everybody's life. I'm really honored and speechless about all of the love that I feel and see here. And I just want to thank and appreciate each one
I'll take one. Wow.
Flower, just whatever you want to think about Dread, your family, today, our community, respect the women. One of our elders told me when our women's on the ground, the movement's over. Or our movement's not over until our women's on the ground. So for us men, think about that. How you raise your daughters, how you treat the women in your community. Teach these little boys to respect women from their little to bigger. Everyone will change.
Hi everybody. Across the street is the last time we came together like this. Maestro by my side, Chaco with the honor of all the people, with Bessie. It's not what we need to say, but what we need to realize. So later on I'll be able to talk with power. But also helping with the roses that you have in your hand, we put them from prison. And from those roses we offered it to sweat, and there was a dance moment. So I need roses again to read in the language of Dread's own words. Because what matters to him most was us. And so Rosa, if because you know how to carry the medicina, and she put us on the table so I could even do the work, but I wasn't here. I'm here with my brother because he's been here with me. But Rosa, for all the people, what we have to do next, if you could read this in Dread's own words, this is what he said, and this is what he feels, and he wrote this for this day. It's an honor to read these words. Dread said, "Today is another opening to the past of losing those we love. Yet maybe not saying those precious words, I love you. For as we walk, we're not worried about death. For as we live, we step closer to the beginning. Today we shall celebrate the losses, yet the beginning of a new life, of understanding the purpose of the Spirit, the walking of Salinas, the growing up on the east side, yet living around all the different cultures of Chinatown. Was in the area, yet my folks live as they were
aloud, living as city, county people, their words were bound. Today we shall give back through the giving of not forgetting that through their walk of touching others, we have touched the world without leaving the valley of the east side. Dread McCall.
All those flowers, please line up. definitely felt Dread's spirit. Felt a lot more in the spirit as well.
I brought a poem that I wrote about ancestors because Dread is now our ancestor. Ancestors, tendrils beneath our surfaces, webs of mycelium and mycorrhizae stretching out to make a net of wisdom, root systems of what we are, of what we can become. We recognize your ancient presence. We learn from your mistakes, your love, your laughter, and your lives. Embracing our memories and dreams, we offer thanks to you for showing us the way. Ancestors for Dread.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Amanda.
I have a poster I made. I wrote it in Spanish. And it says, nuestras almas no se hablan, no se hablan el lenguaje humano, se comunican a través de los símbolos, visiones y sentimientos profundos y la magia de todo el día, todos los días. I would like to hear my translating in English.
Our souls don't speak human language. They communicate through symbols, visions, profound feelings, and the magic of each day.
From 2015 to 2018, I was homeless, part of the community right here in Chinatown. I met Dread and Wes by living out there. And Dread was like a mentor to me because when I had my problems, I would go to him and he would always give me the right thing that I needed to hear. And we're both veterans and we went to the same school. You know, he was a senior, I was a sophomore. And because of him, I am who I am right now. I'm out here advocating for the homeless now because I've lived in the streets for 3 years. I know how it is to be homeless. And I thank God for Dread and Wes. Thank you.
Ben, thank you, Ben.
This is actually something my uncle wrote back in 2006, and I think it's very poignant, and I think it fits us in how we feel right now. It says, time passes, we're pointed towards releases of spirits, settling ways of trust, staying open to find comfort of mind. Voices heard to talk of nothing, for eyes intercept movement. It lays to sound, not to fail, for only success is true to self. And this man, just reading and going through all his readings and everything, this is a beautiful man with a beautiful soul and with a beautiful mind all rolled in one. This is a man that comes across somebody's life once in a lifetime. And for him to be and to know him is truly an honor because whether you were right or wrong, he still respected you and he talked to you like a human being. That was, he didn't care if you were a person or a CEO of a big company, he talked to you and treated everybody the same.
I'll talk later on about what we went through. But I'm not going to talk later on about who I am, about what I couldn't go through, who he is, what he stood for, the Creole Geach. We don't live in a black and white society. We're all a part of each other. But what do you know? My Dread put his boots on. My Dread had a sister that would never show up. that had a brother, but we didn't know him. But we do today. And where we are, what we did, from slavery to here. My Dread had boots on, but underneath his feet were tired. His hips were hurt. My Dread didn't talk. My Dread, when I didn't want to go on, my Dread was my daughter. My Dread helped me not kill myself. My Dread walked when nobody else was there with me. My Dread witnessed the police killing and the power of the women. There's thousands of pictures that nobody's seen yet. My Dread didn't have to speak. He had feet that did a 360 if you were honorable. If you were a liar, my Dread's pictures were short. 5 years of work. My Dread told me to get up, and I wouldn't. My Dread was a friend to Wes, a white man that's not white, running for mayor. My Dread went to the Chinatown Learning Center and said, "Don't feed people food." My Dread said the root of the land, from Taylor Farm to Cesar Chavez to the Homeless Union, says people matter. My Dread didn't die. My Dread is Black August. My Dread is everyone that didn't make it. My Dread is May Ali, McCall, for every elder, every child, everyone that is in city council, county. My Dread is breaking the silence. My Dread, I don't want to go on with. My Dread, I can't do this without. My Dread is everyone. But my Dread is black. My Dread is cream. My Dread is Geechee. My Dread is revolution. My Dread is not history. My Dread is a drum. My Dread is as I. My Dread is from Burkina Faso. My Dread had Molly Ma come to the Methodist Church. My Dread was walking across a sidewalk, a crosswalk as a veteran, and I'm trying to cite him and give him a ticket for walking and being a leader amongst women there. My Dread was a chess player, but it wasn't with the players or the haters. My Dread knew every square, because my Dread knows everybody who isn't here. My Dread is a spirit. My Dread is a nation. My Dread is a challenge. My Dread is Jamila. My Dread is Robert. My Dread is his brother that can't even be here. My Dread is Tanisha. My Dread is every one of us that is incarcerated. More than that, my Dread is somebody who hasn't been born yet. My Dread is someone who they say is already gone. They don't even exist, because my Dread is no black leadership, no black grant, no black anything except for Martin Luther King, and know his story, because it's not fair. It's not true, and every black woman, child, nation, and continent is not black. And one more thing, my Dread is a star that will never be extinguished. My Dread is breaking the silence. My Dread is a poor people's movement. My Dread is a liberation. And my Dread is a challenge to all of us today. But I am not him. I'm tired. I am weary. I am sad. I'm alone. But I will not go away. Because my Dread went and saw my grandchildren. My Dread helped my daughter. My Dread became me because he listened. And my Dread is not sure because he's a man, he's a veteran, he has the boots, and he's no excuse. My Dread is forever. A hug. All power to all people.
Pamela.
Very bad Dread. You know what I mean? But every time I used to go to Charlotte with my dog, you know, it always made me smile because he always took a picture of us. So, you know, I'm like, wow. I said, he didn't even care what I was going through that day. I don't even look like someone that should be out there, but hey, life is rough, man. There's only way to make it. But, you know, two angels in my life, Pamela and Vito, dust me off. Tell me, fight. With the ram on the side of my waist. Fighting. And I didn't understand, man. Like, what the hell? But then I just started looking in each and every one of their eyes, man, and it just tells you what the pain is. And it's all around you. Nobody sees it, but yet they've been blind to it for so many years, man. I got to learn that by spending my time with Wes White. Me and him sitting down together and find about each other. Because that's the man he is, man. He sits down and talks to people out here like a human. Like we're somebody. Because we are somebody. And that's big what Pamela says, my bread. I wish I could say that. That's my Wes White right there. And if we don't get him, we're not going to be able to say my bread or Wes White. We're going to be wondering what we're going to be doing in life out here in our community that we rightfully belong to be at. Because I'm a resident 44 years in Monterey County, man. I've been homeless. My bad. Pamela told me about that. I've been unsheltered for the last 2.5 years. I just want to win the battle, man. Because that's what they want. Thank you.
My name's Joe, born and raised here in Salinas, California. I remember this place when it was 70,000. I heard somebody here talking about the east side, also. And I remember cruising, the east side back in the 80s and how everything was there. Things have changed. And things changed in my life from the 80s to now. And in that time, I had a couple of opportunities, actually, to have conversations with Dread in the community. And I wish I could say he was a great friend. In my heart, I want to believe he was a friend, a great friend of all of us. And I feel that in the voices that I've heard so far today. The impact that one spirit can have on all of us. I had the privilege of speaking with Dread last in Monterey, just as an individual human who was living in a van at the time because I lost everything. Were successful previously. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many countries you've been to, how many blah, 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 blah. We're all human, and we're all impacted by the same issues, which is real life, it's crazier than fiction. At the end of the day, I'm just going to tell you that I wasn't prepared to speak today. You've all inspired me to say something. And it's because of Dread. So, whatever it is that you can retain from your experiences and interactions with Dread, hold them deep in your heart and honor it. And share the love. Those who live in your heart never die.
I wanted to introduce a friend on the phone. Her name is Tina Lagape, and she's a friend that has been, around 23 years before, and I met her just by doing chicken sandwich runs, is what we called it. So she's been active in the community and everything. Say her piece.
Aloha, everyone.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Maluhia, but Charles knew me as Tina Latapa. Today turned out to be a beautiful day for all of us to come together to celebrate and remember the life of an amazing and well-loved person. The last time I saw Charles was in the beginning of COVID. My husband and I were making sandwiches for the homeless, and Charles and Wes made sure everyone got fed. He was always thinking of others. When I got the news, like many of you, I was devastated and sad to hear of his passing. Truly, he has gone way too soon. I know most of you know him as the Dreadman, but back in the day, I knew Charles. I knew him as Charles McCall, and we've been friends for over 40 years. I guess you could say more like buddies. Our friendship goes back to the late 70s and early 80s. I can't remember exactly the first time we met, but I can tell you one of the things that bonded us together. It was a game called racquetball. We hung out at Hartnell College racquetball courts waiting to get in and play, because it was always packed, so we just patiently waited outside for our turn. Sometimes that list was long, but we'd sit outside and wait. We used to play each other, then one day we decided that we'd make a good doubles team. I was left-handed and Charles was right, so we could pretty much cover the court. When he played, he gave it his all, and he gave 110%. We were just meant to be partners, and we were a good team together. After hours of playing, we'd sometimes go to my house and have a couple of beers with my dad. My dad was a great handball player, and I guess you could say he was like our racquetball coach. He had a lot of knowledge about the game, and Charles enjoyed talking to my dad because they shared common things. Their love for the game, and they both served in the United States military. Charles was one of my friends that always had the utmost respect for my parents, always referring to them as Mr. and Mrs. Lagapa. I loved hanging out with him because he was more than a friend, he was like a brother. Yes, he was a great player, but there was so much more to him than that. He was one of the kindest people I'd ever had the privilege of knowing. He was funny, and he'd make me laugh till our stomachs hurt. He was respectful, sweet, humble. He was always humble until the day last time I saw him. Always trying to give me the credit for a game we won when it took the both of us together to celebrate a victory. We were racquetball fanatics and we were committed. And then life happened and I moved to Germany. The next time our paths crossed was 6 years later. I was driving by Eldorado Park and saw this guy sitting on the corner with long dreads. No way, that looks like Charles McCall. I flipped the Huey so fast and I pulled over and I was like, yes, I was so happy to see my brother again. We went to my house, caught up on the years that we had missed. He was now putting concerts together and doing so much for the community, and I wasn't surprised at all. And then life got busy for us both, and again years had slipped by. Within the last couple years, we had crossed paths, and it was always a happy reuniting. During this COVID, we worked together helping the homeless. I've always known this man to be kind, compassionate, and committed. He always stayed the same throughout all the years, never ever changing. Just very mellow, same across the board. I'm sure going to miss you, Ezzard, Charles, Dreadman, McCall. I'll never say goodbye, but until we meet again, and I'll leave all of you with this. Hela au kuhohokahi, hele ua no ka'ala, waipahe wale. An expression of admiration for an outstanding person, unequaled in beauty and wisdom, a person who is very kind. Aloha hoi, my sweet and my sweet and dear friend, Charles McCall. Not goodbye, but until we meet again, somewhere over the rainbow. Peace to all of you, and much love. Stay safe during this COVID time.
I just wanted to mention about Tina also. I didn't know that she knew Dread, and she didn't know that I knew Dread, but we came together for this chicken run, and I was like, wow, so the amount of initiative it takes, to find style and personality is wonderful. And I thank you all for being here.
Hi, my name is Diane, and we've been through a lot. Me, Wes, and Drake. We used to go to Marysville Wednesday to meet the homeless. We did went to the federal judge to go try to get a restraining order. He was an awesome person. Everybody loved him, you know. And I know he was a very quiet person. And once you got to know him, you get a laugh or two out of him, you know. And as crazy as it sounds, you know, he always believed in us. He never gave up, and you just don't give up. Like he says, you know, never give up, because he says you can't do it, you know. No, but we don't miss you, Dread.
All right, folks.
Show the community what Dread would stand for.
No excuse, put your boots on. 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 Never stop us. Nobody there can ever stop us. Let's go down and march out as the poor. Let's go down. Our brothers got to get together. Our brothers got to do more and more. Nobody there can ever stop us. Let's go down and march out as the poor. Our sisters got to get together. My sisters got to do more and more. Nobody there can ever stop us. Let's go down and march up for the poor. Our siblings got to get together. Our brothers got to do more and more. Nobody there can ever stop us. Let's go down and march up for the poor. Our mothers got to get together. Our brothers
marching. The little revolution flying by. Let's go down and march together. Let's go down. You want more. Nobody there. Get together, our brothers got to do more. Nobody there can ever stop us. Let's go down, come on down for the poor. When the road gets rough and rocky, the hill gets steep and high, we're gonna see as we go marching. We'll win our revolution by and by. Organize, 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 organize. We want justice for all our people. 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 All of us, not just some of us. All of us, not just some of us. All of us, not some of us. All of us, not just some of us. All of us, not just some of us. We won't be silent. 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 Organize. 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 See, say, where they. See, say, where they. See, say, where they. See, say, where they. Our power, our people. Our power, our people. Our power, our people. Viva la vida. Viva la vida. Viva la vida. Viva la vida. See justicias. No hay paz. See justicias. No hay paz. See justicias. No hay paz. Organize. 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 Let's go down and march together. Let's go down to do more and more. Nobody there will ever stop us. Let's go down and march for the poor. Our brothers, good and good together. Our brothers, good to do more and more. Nobody there can ever stop us. Let's go down and march out for the poor. When the road is rough and rocky and the hills steep and high, we're gonna sing and go marching. We'll win our revolution by and by. Ain't no power like the power of the people, 'cause the power of the people won't stop. Say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people, 'cause the power of the people won't stop. Say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people. Say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people.
Take some lead up there, Dan.
Say what?
Take some lead.
Somebody. I am somebody. I am somebody. I am somebody. The power of the people. The power of the people. The power of the people won't stop. The power of the people. The power of the people. The power of the people won't stop. Say what? Say what? Say what? You know how to do this? Take it. No, I don't. Say it with me. Okay, great. Power of the people. Power of the people.
Ain't no power like the power of the people, because the power of the people
won't stop. Hey! Say it again. What you say? The power of the people, the power of the people, and the power of the people won't stop.
There you go.
Say what? Ain't no power of the people, no power of the people, and the power of the people won't stop. Yeah. No justice, no peace.
Peace, stop the sweeps.
Justice, no peace.
Defund the police.
Justice, police. Go racist, police. We got a bunch of them. Yeah, you watch when you want. Don't forget we got the whole that's the power of the nobody can stop us. They will feel our feet. The beat, the beat, the beat of the Morgan woman will never, ever, We're getting into stuff. We're getting into stuff.
As one of the direct spots for Dreadman McCall. This was his neighborhood, his community. A lot of people that he grew up with here. This is where he played all his games as a younger man. You know, the Coca Cabana was right there. It was a heyday of everything. The MPS, DLI was here. And a lot of community has been destroyed. And this has been the location where it ends up. Right here on this street, Soledad Street, is a mainstay still. Even though all the businesses are closed, you know, we watched all these buildings get put up a fence, all the vacant lots, we put up a fence. There was Rita Acosta did a tent by the garden where Moongate is now. And, you know, we've tried. We've done so much struggle just trying to maintain. They had 40 tents. Everything clean and proper. They had rules, they had curfew, they had trash done, they had porta potties. She was the first one to get porta potties down here in Chinatown. It's amazing all the struggle that we've gone through. This fence, that fence there on the corner. People are still dying. People are still dying. And that's one of the problems of why we come here. We have a lot of people from here that Dread knew. In fact, when we had an interview the other day, a guy just walked up and he's like, yeah, he talked me down from suicide. So it's amazing the amount of love that man had for everyone down here, and to see so many people still struggling. We did a one-day protest over here at the corner. A line of people, a wall of people to block the sweeps. And it worked for a day. Jill Allen Hill in Dorothy's place, she promised 200 people would get placed in 90 days. And that never happened. There was no coordination of services between the city, the county, and the service providers, state and federal. There's too much problem here. People up and down this road deserve a lot better. That's what Dread was for. Sticking up for everybody, and everybody deserves a home. Everybody deserves respect, shelter, running water, electricity. Those are things we need. Permission to be somewhere is the hugest thing. One of the other things Dread really was worried about is food. And, you know, all the time. He didn't care for meat. He didn't care for salt. He didn't care for the sugar. He didn't care for the pastries. He wanted to see healthy food. Good.
the pastries and sugar.
We live in a salad bowl. There's healthy food all over the place. We work really hard to grow it. We should be able to throw a lot of it away. We should be able to share a lot of that food.
Exactly. So, I mean, we're here to honor Dread. I know most people here know him, or knew him. And if anybody got some love for Dread.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming. It's so great to see so many familiar faces. I am thrilled to be here today to help follow in Dread's footsteps. We will need as many shoes as we can get since his strides were long and his footprints were big. Dread reminded me of one of my favorite people in American history, John Dewey. Dewey lived during the roaring 20s when Ford had just made its first motor-driven vehicle and stocks were sky high across the board. He was considered in his time to be a radical thinker. He was an educator and a true progressive thinker that he truly believed in Americans and that they should be able to progress up the ladder to live a life they worked hard. If they worked hard and they were consistent. But the roaring 20s were a time when few Americans could actually progress, and John Dewey believed that the big banks in politics had much to do with that. He fought to remove the big money from politics as an advocate. He saw great injustice and a reality that so many were blind to see. Systemic oppression was alive even back then. They labeled Dewey a radical to make him the bad guy throughout his life, and wasn't appreciated until after his death. But that's not why he reminds me of Dread. Dewey thought outside the box and he saw a much larger picture of the systems that control us, that make our choices and our relations. Dewey was an educator who had a unique philosophy to his teaching. He believed that in order to learn a topic well, students needed a safe space to figure things out for themselves. That students could be guided to the right direction, but after that it was up to them. Malcolm X once said, if you have no critics, you'll likely have no success. Failure is part of our successes. Dewey knew that if you learned what didn't work, you would eventually figure out what did. He understood that through discovery was engagement, and when his students finally figured out what worked and what would make it happen, it led to the feeling of accomplishment. With a mindset that was confident to move forward towards the next step of the ultimate goal. The first time Dread really talked to me was outside the Learning Center, and it wasn't an ordinary small talk that newly acquaintances had. He interrogated me. He wanted to know what my opinion was about the food that they served to the most vulnerable populations. I remember thinking to myself that it was like heaven to have a warm meal when I was out here. Instead of looking for change on the ground and having many days without food at all because I never found enough, I would have been perfectly content with what was just around the corner if I knew it was here. He must have been disappointed in my response because I saw his expression after that. And then it was like we were playing 21 questions. What he made me see that day, I never thought of. And for me, it changed everything after that. He asked me if I knew about pesticides and GMOs. And my response was, I was Monsanto's worst nightmare when I was in school. I wrote an advocacy paper about pesticides near California's public schools, and I met the ag commissioner to pitch my idea to him, and then I sent my letter to the California Department of Pesticide Regulation, aiming to protect the environment and the children. Dread gave me a look like he was disappointed in me, and he asked me, why don't these people out here deserve the same protection? That question silenced me, and he was right. The simplest things, such as food quality and environmental protection, was everything. If those facing the greatest challenges were not fed nutritious diets, their brains were affected too. And just because some of the people slept outside, it did not diminish their need for the same healthy amino acids that our bodies digest well. It made perfect sense to feed those that are in the most need and in the most vulnerable situations the healthiest food possible. I was eating a bag of Cheetos while we were talking about this, and he looked down and shook his head at my bag of chips. It was simple. They needed the most protection. This was the only time that Dread hinted at an answer that he wanted me to find. I never knew that he was so in tune with things, and I told him he was absolutely correct, and I was embarrassed I didn't think of that myself. The disappointed look changed to his normal sparkle and glittery aura that he wore over all his black ensemble. When the city of Salinas started sweeping the streets so often, people were losing their shelters quicker than they could replace them, and I couldn't take it anymore. I could not just sit inside the learning center and let these humans die so profoundly without at least a fight. I called the city manager and Officer Carvey and reminded them to bring storage bins, which they said they would do. But that morning there were no bins, and I was livid. From Dread, I learned we must band together. We must build up our community first before we can band against what is not righteous. As Martin Luther King Jr. once put it, we must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. Dread very much believed in this, as his community was smart, they were strong, and they were courageous. He wanted unity so the people could prosper. That day, I remembered that my ex had given me a law book, and it was full of philosophies behind felony criminal charges. And I knew after reading that book that what the city was doing was wrong, and it was unlawful. Every afternoon for a while, Dread would come down and he would check on me at the learning center. He would pace outside the windows, waiting to find out what I had learned that night, the night before. He never told me answers that I wanted to he never told me answers to things he wanted me to know. He knew that if I discovered things for myself and I actively participated, I would learn so much more than if someone just gave me the answers. He believed in me, and for that I will forever be grateful. Now in his giant footsteps, I would like to extend his belief in me to each and every one of you, and to tell you that I too believe in you, and I encourage you to always reach for higher powers through greater knowledge and commitments to yourselves and to your communities. We are all important, each in our own special way. Together we are a force that can build up against any obstacle thrown our way. We have the greatest strengths in unity, in our diversity, in our cultures, and our commitments to one another. In closing, I would like to offer a moment of silence for Dread, and let us not forget where we come from. Please join me now. Today and every day, let us carry on his legacy through our movement, through our kindness and our compassion, through a network of people from all walks of life, from both spectrums of the political sphere, and let's unite for a more prosperous tomorrow. Thank you.
Everybody got a right to live. Everybody got a right to dream. Everybody got a right to love. Everybody got a right to learn. Everybody got a right to live. Everybody got a right to dream. Everybody got a right to love. Fight for your life. Fight for your life. Fight for your life.
Stop the sweeps.
Day of the dread, awaken the spirit in us. Day of the dread, day of the dread, day of the dread, one love. Day of the dread, day of the dread, day of the dread, one love.
Let's get over to the right. I have no idea what's going on. For caring and helping, you guys say that.
They fired me for all these things that I could prove were lies.
One life, one love. One life, one love. One life, one love. Charles Ezzard McCall.
The University Corporation. In January.
Charles Ezzard McCall. Day of the dread was love. Charles Ezzard McCall. Day of the dread was love. Charles Ezzard McCall. Day of the dread was love. Charles Ezzard McCall. Day of the dread was love. Charles Ezzard McCall. Day of the dread was love. Charles Ezzard McCall. Day of the dread was love. Charles Ezzard McCall. Day of the dread was love. Charles Ezzard McCall. Day of the dread was love. One life, one love, one life, one love, one life, one love. Charles Ezzard McCall. Charles Ezzard McCall. Jamila, 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 Jamila.
Bessie. Right? Let's see if Thomas want to come.
Bonnie, Charles.
I'll get you a shirt. Dave.
Dreadman, McCall, Dreadman, we're all, Dreadman,
Yeah, this is kind of like second home, so the family's visiting everybody.
One struggle, one fight, all power to the people, all power to the people, all power.
Well, we're gonna go into that scene when we turn down Market Street.
One love, one life, one love, one life, one love, one life, one struggle, one fight. Charles Ezzard McCall. Charles Ezzard McCall. Charles Ezzard McCall. One love, one life. One love, one life. All love for the people. 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 One love, one life. One struggle, one fight. One love, one life. One struggle, one fight. Charles Ezzard McCall. Charles Ezzard McCall. Love by your soul. Love by your soul. Love by your soul. Charles Ezzard McCall. Charles Ezzard McCall. Charles Ezzard McCall. When you wake up in the morning, gotta look for the sun. When you live in the morning, gotta look for the sun. One love, one life. Charles Ezzard McCall. One love, one life. Charles Ezzard McCall. One love, one life.
Down Market Street.
All power to the people. Put your boots on. Put your boots on. Put your boots on. Put your boots on. Put your boots on.
This guy's
Put your boots on.
No.
No, we just barely missed it.
What?
We barely missed it.
What?
They've been arresting people.
They've been arresting people too?
Hiding and everything. Yeah. They're behind the apartment and the fence. They got a trailer there. Yeah.
Where?
Right, you know what they got right to
live.
They put a little space there. They got a trailer there. And they go in there. I caught them.
Oh, like a substation. Well, they got that substation right there.
Yeah, and what they do is they watch everybody.
We're getting into step. We're getting into step. We're getting into step. For our freedom. To for equality, let me hear you roar. Fight poverty.
I stopped because I wanted you to keep going. And then I saw those cars, I'm like, wait.
Get ready for equality, let me hear you roar. Say equality. Say equality. Say equality. Say equality. Let me hear you roar.
Daisy's going to meet us at the park. She feels
we're getting step for our freedom. Ain't gonna let racism turn us around. Turn us around. Turn us around. Ain't gonna let racism turn us around. We're gonna keep on walking. Keep on talking.
Walking on a freedom line.
Ain't gonna let injustice turn us around. Turn us around. Turn us around. Ain't gonna let injustice turn us around. Gonna keep on talking.
Does seem like we're pretty well done.
More than half. The power of the people won't stop. The power of the people won't stop. The power of the people won't stop. The power ain't no power. Ain't no power like the power of the people. Cause the power of the people won't stop. Say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people won't stop. I haven't asked you yet. I am.
Somebody.
That's why I keep pacing my back there. Somebody. I am. Somebody. I am. Somebody. Ain't no power like the power of the people, cause the power of the people won't stop. Say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people, cause the power of the people won't stop. Say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people, cause the power of the people won't stop. Say what? Ain't no power like the power of the people, cause the power of the people won't stop. I am somebody. I am somebody. I am somebody. I am somebody. Housing for all. Housing for all. Housing for
Charles.
Justice for all. Charles Ezzard McCall. 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 All power to all people. All power to all people. All power to our people. All power to our people. Charles Ezzard McCall. Charles Ezzard McCall.
Where are you getting your workouts
Power
today?
to our people. Power to our people. Power to our people.
You got it?
Power to our people. All power to the people. We won't be stopped. Put your booties on.
Did you hear what happened over there? Were you there?
What happened?
So just shortly before we showed up, apparently there was somebody got their tent taken. And thing of arrest, so Diane was just saying that we just barely missed the cops showing up.
Well, then that's why Prince is here.
Right. Well, and that's why at City Hall we're gonna make mention and let her say it.
And you're gonna have it on video.
Exactly.
I'm gonna tell you,
Good person. She knows a lot about politics. I provide the date. I provide the date. Well, part of it is because we're making a statement.
All power to all people. 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 No justice.
No peace.
Stop the sweeps. No justice.
No peace. Stop the illegal sweeps.
No justice.
No peace.
Stop illegal sweeps. No justice. No peace. Stop illegal sweeps. No justice. No peace.
Stop illegal sweeps.
No justice. No peace.
Stop illegal sweeps.
No justice. No peace.
Stop illegal sweeps. Failure to protect is a criminal offense.
Failure to protect is a criminal offense. Failure to protect is a criminal offense. Failure to protect is a criminal offense. Failure
Illegal
to
sweeps. Stop the illegal sweeps.
Stop the illegal sweeps. Stop illegal sweeps.
Stop illegal sweeps.
Go for it. Take it over, Big Mama.
Stop illegal sweeps! Failure to protect is a criminal offense. Women, children, veterans, families, disabled, displaced. Failure to protect is a criminal offense. Failure to protect is a criminal offense. Failure to protect. Failure to protect is a women, children, families, displaced, veterans, disabled, and people from illegal speech.
First of all, let me tell you.
Stop illegal speech! 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 Stop illegal speech!
Wait, what?
Go to the
This is definitely a stomping ground of his.
Stop illegal speech! Stop illegal speech! Stop illegal speech! Stop illegal speech! On our feet! Protect our residents! Protect our residents! Protect our residents! Protect our residents! Charles Ezzard McCall! Justice for all! Charles Ezzard McCall! Justice for all! Charles Ezzard McCall!
Watch out, Will.
Justice for all! Charles Ezzard McCall! Justice for all! Charles Ezzard McCall! Justice for all! Charles Ezzard McCall! Justice for all!
Yeah.
Justice for all!
Where's Bessie and Jamila and Diana?
They're at the bathroom.
Oh, they had to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh, snap. Okay. Because Diana's got a thing that just happened in Chinatown that I guess is pretty. The council just came by and and we just
Housing for all!
half an hour.
Housing for
So
All of us, not some of us. All of us, not some of us. All of us, not some of us. Charles Ezzard McCall.
All right, thank you, Pamela. Everybody give it up for Pamela.
Okay, so we came over here. We chose City Hall because this is where we had a constant struggle, battle, challenge. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where the policies and procedures get put into effect, and people come in a form of crisis on a typical basis to defend themselves. We've packed this place half a dozen times maybe, and every time they just don't listen. Nobody's interested in people too poor to afford rent. And that, I think, was one of the things Dread and I were concerned about the most. Right here, this had about 70 people for about 6 months. Well, maybe a little less, but it grew up to about 70, 80 people. We had women and families. We had couples. We had people with pets. There was a warming shelter across the street. There was a warming shelter over there. And they just constantly get turned out. Not everyone can qualify. Like I said, those classes of people, they weren't allowed to be in that shelter or that shelter, which made ours more welcoming. And we actually made the policies that happened, like the warming shelter over there. Now it's only exclusively families. No more men, no more women. And certainly, which is cool. We like that. We're pushing for better. 6 months we were here. We were just mentioning there's no press on this either. And, it's like we're being ignored still. We did, check your pictures. There's a picture that has this City Hall courtyard in somebody's picture. And then in a different picture, there's also one where we did the cooling shelter, Dread and I. Right here, this is where most of the struggle happened for Dread and I in Salinas. On a constant basis, fighting for human rights, fighting for civil rights, fighting for constitutional rights. We had Martin versus Boise a couple of years ago. That's a court case decision that says if you don't have anywhere to put anybody, you cannot do a sweep and remove them from where they're at. And that's never been adhered to, and shelter in place happened. And then they're like, oh, optics, because we had already been pushing. Gloria De La Rosa was going to give a notification for us. She's been our champion, sticking up for people, and that's what needs to happen. It still hasn't happened. We're still struggling. This whole point right here has been a battleground, typical boss, but we're still breathing, and we're still looking for our human rights. We're still looking for our civil rights. People need permission to be somewhere. We need to stop the sweeps. That is the biggest concern. You can give them clothes, you can give them food, but what they need is security. They need a place to be. And, if you give a person an address, then they're not a criminal because they're not trespassing. And that's the first and foremost is respect. Okay, if people too poor to afford rent, look at what's happening. Look at the wealth inequality. Look at evictions that are about to happen if we don't remain that moratorium in place. An awful lot more people are going to end up in this situation. And what are we doing with people in this situation? If we only accept 5 people into a program and budget ourselves out and have no more money for the other 95%, then that's not a policy. But that is the practice. And destroying 95% of everyone is not society. It's not civil. It shouldn't happen. Yet when it happens, the people doing it have a grin and a smile on their face when they do it. And there's too much pain. Dread saw that. Dude, he couldn't talk, and I'm talking now, but I don't talk much either. But we talk more in the car before and after, period, and it's like, yeah, things have sucked, things have been bad, but we're here now. What are we going to do better? How are we going to do this? What can we do different? And that's what you always would talk about. How are we going to do it different? He'd love everyone. And that's all we've ever tried to bring forth. Is that love, that unity. He's a Dread. That's first and foremost, he does no harm. He always looks out for everyone else. He's the oldest big brother. So, he had a natural tendency on that too. He knows
You know, it's relationship. Everything about life is about relationship. And Dread felt that, emanated into other people. You know, he was a rock. This right here, this was where most of our battle round boxing ring matches happened. So that's chose to come here for that. Dread had a lot of love. An awful lot of love. Well, I know quite a few of you guys, brothers and sisters, out here in Salinas. It's really my second home. I met Dread 6 years ago when we first got underway with a legal challenge to the city of Salinas when they had enacted an ordinance which gave them the right to simply confiscate and destroy on the spot items of personal property that belonged to people who had no homes and therefore had no choice but to have their personal property with them on the street. And as Wes said, we pushed back and successfully stopped them from enforcing that ordinance for 6 months. For 6 months. And then as Diane said earlier, we went to federal court. And Besson was a plaintiff, and William Silas was a plaintiff, and Van Gresham was a plaintiff. And some of these other big shot lawyers came in at one point, and they said, well, who are your plaintiffs? I said, my plaintiffs are the leaders of the homeless community. That's who the plaintiffs in this lawsuit are. That's who the plaintiffs are. And we fought, and we were able to, for a moment, to level that playing field, to show them that we mean business, that we're not helpless, homeless, not helpless. That's not just a slogan, then we proved that to be a reality. Did we not? Did we not at that time? And the fact that we were able to have the flagpole community right here for 6 months, right in front of City Hall, right in their face, and then they had to pass an ordinance specifically prohibiting people from being right here in this spot. That's power. The fact that we pushed them to file and pass that unconstitutional ordinance. And we're continuing to fight. When I first met Dread, I said, 2 things impressed me. First of all, he had the earphones. All the time. All the time. But I found out that even though he had the earphones, he was listening all the time. All the time. And the other thing about it, and he came out of the military, and he traded in his rifle for another weapon, and that was that camera. Yeah. That was that camera. That camera was a weapon, and continues to be a weapon. And I'll tell you something. Here's a picture of Dread right here. Pam gave me this. Can I take this home? I'd love to have it.
He made it.
Absolutely, keep it.
All right. So there's a photograph. I think this is in Santa Cruz, where you've got members of the Homeless Union locals and the Santa Cruz local, Sacramento local, and of course the Salinas local. And there's Dread on the side. You don't see too many pictures of this because usually it was Dread documenting the struggle. Dread McCall took thousands of photographs, and he didn't have a lot to say, and he's gone physically, but he lives on in the document that he created, a visual image of oppression and resistance. Am I right about that? Yes. He lives on. And I'll tell you something else. We started here in Salinas. This was the first of the Homeless Union locals. And then we got to Marysville, and then we got to Sacramento, and then we're up in as far north as Redding and as far south as El Centro. And then we've expanded across the country. We have the National Union of the Homeless. And you know who helped inspire that growth of our National Union of the Homeless? Dread McCall. His images went across the country. Say, what the hell is going on over there at Salinas? A bunch of ragtag people going up. They say you can't fight City Hall. We fought City Hall, and we beat City Hall, at least for a time. And the thing of it is that you can fight and you can be beaten. But what do you show? You show what's possible. You show that we're capable of making a fight. You know what I'm trying to say? So we have nothing to lose. We've been in court, we win some, we lose some. We've been in City Hall, we've been right here in this plaza, we've gone to jail, we have fought, we've been arrested, we've been targeted by police, targeted by vigilantes. We've had all this, whatever you can imagine, come down on us, right? But we're still here because we have nowhere to go but up. I'm going to tell you right now, they are predicting that in the next 2 months, as many as 23 million people are going to be evicted into the streets of America. This is a systemic thing. They can have as many cops and as many ordinances and push people around from one corner to the next all they want to, but they cannot stop the fact that millions of people are losing their housing, are unable to pay the rent, are being pushed into unemployment by COVID-19 and the other pandemics we have all the time, the pandemic of poverty. You know what I'm trying to say? So out of those conditions, we're building a movement. Man, when I first met Dread, this guy was so quiet. It seemed like he hardly said anything. But I remember the first conversation we had. I think you were there, Wes. It was you, me, Willie Baptist, and Dread. And all of a sudden, Dread got started, man. He got started, he wouldn't stop. You know, it was like he's just a flood of words and a flood of wisdom and a flood of insight. You know what I'm trying to say? I know you guys are familiar with this. Still waters run deep. Still waters run deep, and that was Dread McCall. He was the same age. We were born in the same year.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? I miss that man. We all miss that man.
Yes, we do.
But he lives on. He lives on in what we're doing here today. He lives on as we continue to organize. We're small. We don't have a lot of resources. But what we have is confidence in the ability of poor people, homeless people to organize and make a difference. That's the lesson of Dread McCall. That's the lesson of what we're doing here. And I'm so glad to be with you guys today and forever, because we're not stopping until we turn this thing upside down. Amen. Because why in the world in a country where they can build a house in 45 minutes on an assembly line and you got people living in a cardboard box and forced to live in a tent on the sidewalk? That ain't good enough for us. Yeah, we fought to stand, we fought to keep the cops away, we fought to stop them from busting our property and destroying it, but that's not enough. That's not enough. There's no excuse for a human being to be forced to live on the street. Not when we have the technology, not when we have the wealth, not when we have the capability of feeding, clothing, and housing everyone. I'll stop with this. That young man, you couldn't hear him because he didn't have the megaphone, but when we were back in Chinatown just now, that young guy said, you know, we were talking about how Dread was always about nutrition. It was always about good food. And that young kid got up and said, yeah, this is the salad bowl of the world. They grow all the lettuce, they grow the vegetables, they grow the Driscoll and Taylor farms, all the food that could feed the whole country, the whole world, right here in Salinas Valley. And yet you got people going hungry every day of the week. That's inexcusable. But it shows what you guys can do here in Salinas. We started the union here. This is still the base of the union. I don't care how, sometimes we get a lot of people, sometimes we get few people. That's not the point. The point is to be consistent. The point is to be organized. The point is to be disciplined. And the point is to have confidence in our ability to move forward. So Dread McCall, we're answering the call of Dread McCall. So if I could also convey to you the love and appreciation from the whole National Union. I've talked to all of our officers. You know, Dread was an officer, a national officer in the homeless union. We've spoken to all of our officers. The whole country knows about what happened here. They know and love Dread and are lifting up Dread, and he will remain an inspiration. So thanks, everybody. Let's keep on fighting. What is it? Justice for all. Charles McCall.
Hello?
Yeah, just say hello there. Can you hear
How
me?
you doing? You guys having fun yet?
Yeah.
You kind of look like it. Hey, well, just listen to the gentleman over here. You know, if you really pay attention and stop listening to what he's saying and just look into his eyes. That's what you gotta do, is look into the eyes, man.
Exactly.
You can see the pain and the suffering that they have. You know what I mean? But now I kind of wonder what Dread was telling me when I was trying to fight for my vehicle. That there's people out there that can help you. You know what I mean? Go to this meeting. And I was like, man, don't waste my time. You know what I mean? And I didn't understand, you know what I mean? I just sat in my tent over there on the tracks, feeling sorry for myself. You know what I mean? But I made the mistake by pulling in there. Didn't have to ruin my life by taking my vehicle, you know? But I kind of feel what this man over here is saying, you know what I mean? And if we don't fight, then why are we out here? We're not here for luck. You gotta build that deep confidence in you and come out and say something, man. Because if you don't say nothing, nothing's gonna get done. You might as well just step to the side and just let them run over you.
Yes.
I'm tired of being run over, man. I'm tired of keeping my mouth shut. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Dread's a good man, eh? Like I said, I only remember him telling me, hey, taking a picture of me. My dog was a pup. Till now. And those streets, man, when you're not doing drugs, they suck you up because you don't eat right. And then you hear everybody else's problem. Like, why don't you say something?
Okay, like I said, I was part of the Chinatown community for 3 years. Like I said, every time I had a problem, I go talk to Dread, and he would steer me in the right direction. And then us being from the same high school and both being Marine Corps veterans, I mean, I really took a liking to him. And he was like a real quiet person, just moving around, but like he said, he had his headset on. So, because of who I am right now, I have him to thank and I have Wes to thank, because they got me out of where I was at and really put something into my head. And I did a year and 8 months in the homeless program for veterans. Now I'm back on the block, working for CSUMB, and I'm making a difference. I'm out there with the people saying, and I told a certain woman that once I got my life back together, I was going to come back and help, and I kept my promise. So I am very passionate about being out here, and I love being out here today because of my fellow Marine, my buddy, Dread.
We're just telling Wes right now, just before we all walked up into downtown, saw that street, we barely just missed it that the cops were out there, harassing people, and they've been doing that a lot, coming in, sneaking in, and the apartments in back of us, they have an apartment there where they sit there and watch us. They creep up on people, they go into anybody's tent with no permission or nothing. They just go in there and they park in there and rush them, and I don't think that's right, That's why, like Dre said, we're going to continue fighting. And that's something that we're not going to do. It's just like with the shelter, they built. And they're going around telling us that, they're threatening us that if we refuse to go into the shelter, they're going to throw us in jail. And it's like I told Pam, we're a union. On my next step, we're going to shut it down and go on strike. Why not, So we just got to continue fighting, Like Dre said, Jesus used to tell us, never give up. And that's one thing, since I started doing this, I'm not going to give up, and I ain't going to start now.
That's right.
So I just had to tell you guys, thank you.
Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we're going to go to jail. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail.
See, this is why I wanted to make it.
Everybody has a right to live. Hey, where's the megaphone?
Charlie got it up there.
We need a megaphone.
Well, you got
Pamela. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live.
the other one is somebody's hurting my brother.
How does it sound?
It says somebody's hurting my brother. And so all you gotta do is say it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. It's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on
somebody's hurt my brother, and it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurt my brother, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. It's gone on far too long. I said somebody's hurt my brother, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore.
And then you can change brother for sister. You can change...
Somebody's hurt my sister, and it's gone on for too long. Yes, it's gone on for too long. Yes, it's gone on for too long. Said somebody's hurt my sister, and it's gone on for too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's hurt my family, and it's gone on for too long. Yes, it's gone on for too long. Yes, it's gone on for too long. Somebody's hurt my family, and it's gone on for too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's hurt our community, and we've gone on for too long. And it's gone on for too long. And it's gone on for too long. Somebody's hurt our community, and it's gone on for too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's hurt us, and we won't be silent no more. And we won't be silent no more. And we won't be silent no more. Somebody's hurting us, and we won't be silent no more. We won't be silent no more.
So one of the reasons I guess I wanted to come here for Dread was, going along with all his friends, being homeless and poor, he also had to run in with the law. And here we are at the courthouse. He got a bad rap, had to do a long time, a year and a half or so. And, he was supposed to be released. But the man had dreads. And since he had dreads, he wasn't allowed to leave, which seems weird because he served his time. But for over 3 years, they were able to keep him and a bunch of other people who had dreads locked up beyond their sentences. And, so this is one of those clear violations of systemic oppression, racism, and any other words you want to put on it. But it's not fair. It's not balanced. It's not civil. It's not societal. It's just open discrimination, and that's the real problem that I think most everyone has issue with. So court don't help. But with that systemic oppression is a big deal here. We're trying to fight and make that systemic change. The justice, our 3 branches of government includes the judicial. This one. And where is it? Where's the justice? And that's what we keep seeking. Every time we go, we try to get it into policy, and we try to fight it here in the courthouse. We've stuck up for people. We try to get them to go to trial. That's one thing, is stopping the sweeps. Again, sorry I'm so one-sided, but I have a call to action. We talk about Dread today and honoring him. You can be Dread. Okay, he had a camera, and like someone else said, it's a weapon. Dread was militant. Even though we were peaceful and we didn't say anything, just even being present in that room scared the bejeebers out of almost everyone. Just because he's a black man. And then he had a camera. And I had video. And you could actually record what they said.
And that scared him even worse. We're trying to make balance more than anything else. This is all about balance. We're supposed to include, you think about what you learned in preschool and kindergarten, those are the values we're supposed to carry forward as adults, as these people are already supposed to be carrying. I want to talk about colonization, imperialism, and oh man, all these trinkets. Love things to use people, and it's not healthy. This is what Dread was all about, is loving people. He loved everyone. Now, there's so many people that couldn't make it here today that they could have said, Dread saved my life. And that happened at the wake. You know, we had a dozen people say, Dread saved my life. That's the kind of man he was. That's the kind of man you could be, or the woman, you know, kind of person you could be. And we have a call to action on Monday. The city is still doing sweeps. The city has promised to get rid of everybody in Shorewood Park. Shorewood Park is our union stronghold with our co-president, Rita Acosta. And she's now in place. But yet, we had 28 original, and over a dozen of those people are still outside in that location. The same people for this whole decade. They've been doing the same thing over and over and over to the same people. And that's what needs to stop. Think about what's going to happen next. The people you don't care about, the people we've never even met, complete strangers, okay, fine, they're gone. But what's going to happen next? Because we're going to know people who end up in that situation. And is that the fate we want for those people? The ones we know and love? Of course not. Let's start it now. 7 in the morning on Monday. If you can make it, we need legal observers, somebody to video and observe what's happening. You can ask pertinent questions about what they're doing. They are public officials, and if something doesn't make sense, you ask them a question. Why are you doing this? What happened to shelter in place? What happened in Martin versus Boise? What happened to, I thought you were going to help people. You told me. How come I'm not seeing it? Because the direct challenge goes into that administration, which is the whole point of why I guess I'm running for mayor, to stop that from behind closed doors. Because you hear it in their attitude and perception. While they tell you they're going to help you, they're like, yeah, but thank God the shelter's only temporary. It's not permanent. And it's really frustrating to get told one thing because you're the audience that needs to hear what they think you ought to hear instead of what they're actually doing. And that's all those closed room backdoor operations that happen. That's why we've been trying to block it. We go to every public meeting specifically for that purpose because those conversations drive the policy. They say, okay, nobody's going to challenge it? Cool, I can do pretty as I please. And that's where we need to come back and say, no, are you kidding me? That's my friend. That's my family. That's me. Truth. That's what Dread was all about. He could see everyone in himself, and he can see himself in everyone. And that's what it's about, the reciprocal empathy. Love. It is love. That's what Dread was all about. Nothing but love. Love you, Dread.
Love you, Dread.
Come together. Where? Come on, man. Come together. Where?
Everybody, there's a sister here. Dread needs you to help take care of her. With Mayali, McCall, with Jamila, with Robert, with Bonnie. He always would call me, Pamela, I need to talk to you. Let's talk about coming together. But before then, he walked down the corridor of Soledad. In this very county, everybody fought for self-determination. All power to all people. On February, Dread wanted to have Black History Month.
not be Black history, but talk about the truth. Black August is with my son. Black August is when Dread were no longer here. They tried to bury us. We're seeds of the tree of Kula. We are a revolution, but Bessie's not all right. He's a Marine, he's a brother, and his feet were calloused. Do you see the picture of him in the sand? Well, who has that picture of his feet in the sand? With that, Dread, listen to me. There's a saying in the movement that my feet are tired, but my soul is rested. But how can we rest when Mahia, Usmar, Oscar Grant, Brianna, Brenda were killed? There is no justice, there is no peace, because the long hair of Dread were the roots of trees, strange fruits, and everything. But people will say Black Lives Matter. For Dread, where is it? In every street? Even Fort Ord is torn down. What do we know? This day, when I stood in the corridor watching Bandit, Nation, Bear have to deal with no medical. When I stood in the corridor where Dread walked down and his hips wore out, his very hips wore out, and he twisted and he turned, and he put on his boots every day. When the shootings happened, when 2,000 people marched with Maestro Castro, when Franco Morado, when Reeds, when Mahia, when Usmar, when Christopher, all of them are gone, and we cried and we yelled, and we were encircled, and we screamed. You are the tree. You are the seeds of what I yelled for. We are the voice of the voiceless. We are May, Ali, McCall. We are Jamila. We are Rosalind Green. That this very day is suffering and mourning and having to deal with the loved one that she has lost. We are the dad, the grandpa, the father of my children that didn't have a community, a movement, or anything like that. But also, you are the freedom. You are the liberation of every lifer in solid death because they refused to cut their hair. They're out now. Bandit, Bear, Nation. 800 went out because I stood. And then when I went up to Dread by Coffee Bean, I said, do you remember me? Do you remember me? I said, do you want to walk? Then we brought a Burkina Faso person to the Methodist church. Then at the Aberyscary that isn't anymore, we did Juneteenth and we had a drum, but then it burned down. Then the worst thing of all happened. Devontae, Bessie, Jamila lost their house in Marina. They lost their house because the housing authority and the landlord wouldn't agree, where that they had lived for 22 years, where Devontae knew his way. He could be who he was. And with what Dread wrote with his pen then and what that he wrote until that he left us, Dread continued to ask, would you take care of my sister? So today, right now, I ask, will you take care of Bessie? Will you take care of Bonnie? Will you take care of Jamila? When you say Black Lives Matter, I'd like you to ask, is this the only day you're going to wear black? And then after that, in the education, like Maestro Castro, like the Brown Berets, like Black Panthers, people are unaware. The power of our relationship is in the sacred. Our Maestro Dale, the National Compadres, the people in Oakland that they were ministers of self-defense, taught the knowledge of being a constitutional citizen, standing up, getting up, speaking up, because when you hurt me, you hurt everybody. These ways, these teachings, are what Dread lived by, that he wrote, that Jamila has pages and pages behind the walls. Even like Maya Angelou said, do you know why a cage bird sings? Because it can. From the church militant to the church triumphant, to the people, the one thing that isn't here is grandmas. Every street from here, San Jose, Los Angeles, everywhere, where are Black people? Where are Black people? The other part Dread did was take Enlace. Enlace was about holding hands. It made us work with leadership and civic engagement. It means do what you can with what you have. Don't talk about it, be about it, and sacrifice your life. His feet were calloused, I rubbed them. I rubbed him. He was tired. He was afraid if he sat down, he'd never be able to get up again. But he's a soldier. He's a Marine. And he didn't care what people thought. So the best place is the power of your camera. I told him take a picture of the experience, not of the face. That way, we have 5 years of who's there. And what Wes would tell you is he said, that way I know who's lying. That way I know who's missing. And when you see the same people in the same room doing the same thing, then they get civil grand jury investigations and Department of Justice. They say, you will not kill my people. You will not have implicit bias. But they thought that we went away. They came. And then they brought, why'd you stop? And Dread was there. It's not about political. I asked him to be there when I could. I asked him to be there when my son died. I asked them to be there so I could stand in the midst of 2,000 dancing, talking, expressing people from Cluster Park. Because it wasn't what we could do, it's who that we are from then to now. But instead of what we've lost, what we have left, we need to take care of Bessie. When we take care of each other, we are Dread. But our struggles are strength. And then when? If you have a grandma still alive, our maestro Teo said, there's a burnt tortilla, or there's a song. If you have a brother or sister, if there's a man and he can stand and he can protect us while we're walking down the street, they haven't seen us here. And you know what? One of the health department people said, more than bullets, more than ballots, what kills us is indifference. That indifference that says, I can't. Why me? Or doesn't even notice at all. In 1962, I was born. I was an Irish person, but I didn't know my family. Then my son chose Mexican. Now we have black. So who am I? They can't see me. I'm all of you. And the seeds that they tried to bury, they're standing now. Through Baktoon, through the cymbals, through the dance, but now through the drum beat. Jamila has asked us to stand for a man that has been not like nobody else. A father, a soldier, a warrior. But I ask you to stand for everyone, Los Angeles, Bay Area, and everyone between us, behind walls, that we can't see now. Too many of our children, too many generations are not here. But it doesn't make us stop being moms, sisters, brothers. We're a community and we know everybody, but we haven't met yet. So from Soledad Prison to Soledad Street, where Bessie lost her home, Devante lost his identity, Jamea has to fight everybody to try to stop telling stories and get involved, to Soledad where bed bugs and cockroaches and everything, and people can treat us like we're nothing in Salinas. Enough's enough. But you know what? What Dread and I know and what we agree to is it's not what we say. People will rise to the level we expect them to do. We teach people how to treat us, how we show up. We teach people how to respect us by how we get involved. And we teach us to honor us by how we build. If we have communities that have city council people in seats that say you have 2 minutes or less to talk, we're in pain. And that pain stacks up. And then we lose our brothers, we lose our women, we lose our will. And then my sister Rita that can't be here today, but it's behind everything, then we get tired and nobody else is helping around. Are we gonna do this with all of us or just some of us? The thing is that from Soledad, a lot of lifers are gone, but who's gonna take their place? Right now, we stood, Maestro, Castro, and Daniel, you know we stood over by where the juvenile hall is. So with COVID and the fire, they can't put us inside because we're not residents, but they can take our youth away from us. So then grandmas like me and grandpas and elders can't live anymore. And then we're stuck doing the same thing. It's called a self-fulfilling prophecy, but our ways are not like that. In Dread, our struggles are strength. But I need your help because my grandkids are in Ukiah. And there's so many other places where prisons are waiting for them. But more than that, without me being there, without my son being there, with my daughter just coming back to me, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I helped men get out, but then what? They don't need to ask permission anymore. We showed up today, we spoke up. But Nick is going to tell us what are they willing to do. But before then, if Bessie wants to talk, Bessie can say what she feels about being the sister of who that she knows, that came from somewhere to be something. And because if they have ears, they won't feel it. And then they'll forget. So Bessie, would you please come and sit by me like we walked before? Because if we don't, who will? Thank you. Amadeo. Thank you, Dread. Ezzard, McCall.
Yes, I miss him. I mean, you know, he was my rock. He was. A good guy. I had talked to him that Wednesday. The next thing I knew, that Saturday. They said he was gone. He just like, how? He just tore my world apart. My mom. She had passed away 16 and a half years ago. And then now my brother. And now, first it was half of my heart. Now it's my whole heart. It could never, ever, ever. I loved him like I don't know what. You know? I miss him. We would always call each other like every 2 weeks. Like if you don't hear from him, he'll call me or I'll call him. You know, and then I'll see if he's alive. You know, and see if I'm alive. And then I ask him, okay, what's up? Nothing, what you need? Okay, I know you want something. You know, and that's how it was. And I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss seeing him in Chinatown, miss seeing him standing by that pole with his camera. I'm just gonna miss him here. And I'm so thankful for everybody who came, all the friends he had. I can feel the love. I want to thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you, Essie. Thank you all for being here, dear friends, family, neighbors, comrades. The spirit of dread who is among us today, in this moment and always. The resistance and the assertion of our existence to be seen and mattered. The people of the movement, thank you all for being here today. It is in the struggle that we find our strength. My name is Nick Musney, and I had the pleasure, as it always is, of talking to Pam earlier this week about dread. I unfortunately didn't have the pleasure of knowing dread as intimately as Pam did, even though I was born and raised here in Salinas. Unlike Pam, Wes, and Dread, the Three Musketeers, as so many affectionately call them, who have been doing this work here for years, I'm relatively new to community work here in the Valley, so I like to lean on folks like Pam and Wes for wisdom and guidance in my work. And they have been instrumental in helping me to understand the true significance and depth of this man we are gathered here today to honor. One of the first times I saw Dread was where we were just at on June 23rd, the day the Salinas City Council decided unanimously, except for Council Member Tony Barrera, to approve a budget that gave $53 million to Salinas Police Department, 45% of our entire budget, while just giving 8% to libraries and community services and 4% to community development. Carla, Trago, and so many others spoke on the mic as we continue to do about this grave injustice and demanded our city invested in caring for us, not continuing to criminalize, incarcerate, and murder us. Dread was there with his camera. The next time I saw Dread, the first time I actually remember having the pleasure of meeting him was on July 16th outside of Monterey County Jail. I remember pulling up in my car with my sign, "Going to jail should not be a death sentence." Wes was there, Dread, two loved ones of folks inside, and Univision and Telemundo were there as well, each with a single correspondent, who was also the camera crew. 4 of us were there to demand the immediate release of our most vulnerable people and to demand humane care and safety measures for those inside as the COVID-19 outbreak raged behind the walls that we stood before. Dread was there with his camera. I reintroduced myself to Dread with a fist bump. Few words were exchanged between us, but his presence spoke pages, volumes. It was deep and impactful, a spirit as calming and welcoming as it was commanding, an impression I remember feeling long after our fists collided for that split second, and long after I left that parking lot. I felt in that moment the spirit of what Wes calls a dear friend, with the strength of a lion and gentle as a feather. On July 26th, 6 days before Dread passed from this form and marched into the spirit world, he marched alongside us as we took over North Main Street from the Rodeo grounds to the Army Recruitment Center at Hard Ranch Plaza to demand justice for Vanessa Guillen. Dread was there with his camera. As I spoke with him and reflected upon my few interactions with Dread, I came to realize that when we speak about Dread, we're not only speaking about Dread, we're speaking about everything. When we are in the presence of Dread, body or spirit, we are not just in the presence of Dread, but we are in the presence of everything all at once. The convergence of history and culture, of the past, the present moment, the future, the transcendence of time, as our indigenous ancestors have said, relatives that weigh 7 generations before us and 7 to come in every breath and step we take as we move forward in this present moment. Power, strength, resistance, tenderness, compassion, and love. When we speak Dread's name or march in his spirit, we awaken these things within ourselves and in the very air that occupies the space around us. I've come to realize that Dread represents everything we fight for in this county. Every person forgotten in the legal documents and annexes and closed-door agenda items in every government office, in every government building, in every government meeting, in every council, commission, board, or bureau in this valley, from Soledad State Prison to Soledad Street in Chinatown, Salinas. He represented every human being in every cell, stripped of their homes, families, communities, for petty crime they may or may not have committed, or who continues to do time well into the 50s and 60s, their retirement age for a mistake they may have committed in their weakest moments as a fucking teenager. Who might have done 3 more years in state penitentiary for simply refusing to cut their hair. Every black mother staring eviction in the face, charged every morning with the decision of whether or not to pay rent or put food in the belly of her autistic child or other neurologically diverse child. He represented everyone of our housing insecure or houseless neighbors who was lucky enough to survive another cold night on our streets only to be awoken by police as they violently destroy what little shelter or necessities they own. Every person everywhere who suffers from mental illness, anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, atypical psychosis, folks like Brenda Mendoza who suffered from postpartum depression last March and was in the midst of a mental health crisis when Salinas PD officers Brian McKinley, Carlo Calaput, and Robert Miller fired 18 rounds into her car as mental health workers were literally on their way. Dread is every single person the system has impacted, and every single person who rages against that very system in order to abolish it. Or at least radically transform it to recognize with a deep sense of compassion the dignity and humanity of all within it. As Wes said, he has a powerful intention. Everything was about understanding, trying to get a point of understanding people. Dread not only fought for all these people, but he was these people. He not only marched and engaged in the struggle for justice, for equality, for cultural relevance. Dread was the struggle because he lived and embodied it in every moment he lived, and in every intention, and in every action. I can stand here and name Dread's long list of campaigns, accomplishments, and victories he won for the people of our county, but that list is too long. What is more important is Dread's impact, and is something that can be vividly felt here in this moment. Not only the real change he realized for so many that will continue, but his legacy of engagement. His constant presence in the fight and in this movement that we have an obligation to keep alive. I want to share a quote or revisit a quote that was shared earlier, that I feel really speaks to this moment and all the future moments as we seek to continue the struggle that Dread embodied so profoundly. He said, "For as we walk, we're not worrying about death. For as we live, we step closer to the beginning. Today we shall celebrate the losses, yet the beginning of a new life of understanding the purpose of spirit. Today we shall give back through the giving of not forgetting. That through their walk of touching others, we have touched the world without leaving the Valley of the East Side." I learned from Pam that Dread's feet, as she said earlier, were calloused and pained him to walk on, yet he still used his boots to march. In this struggle, we find our strength. We have an obligation to continue Dread's march, to walk in his boots and to follow his footsteps, not only because we love and admire and respect him beyond words, but because anything but victory is not an option. Stagnation is death. Silence is death. Carrying on with business as usual, death. And unless we follow Dread's example and continue to show out, occupy space, and disrupt business as usual, as he constantly did, we will have nothing left to fight for because they will take it all from us. It's been said before, and I'll say it, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're probably on the menu. Dread knew this to his core, and that is why he came out, and that is why I come out today and every day that I come out. We must continue to march, continue to chant, to demand a seat at the table incessantly, constantly, and unrelenting. For Dread and for all of us. Thank you.
I felt everything he said.
That was beautiful, Nick.
Yeah, it really was.
It was beautiful. Thank you again, Nick. Give it up for Nick one more time, please. Spoke for all of us, brother. All right. I think I want to bring us back to this moment with this opportunity to take this further, to take this from here as we occupy this space that, a lot of lives get directed, a lot of decisions, a lot of fates have gotten determined here. And I'm believing that what we've experienced is the power of our big brother Dread. It's gonna make us stronger. And with that, if there's anybody else that wants to say one more thing, because before we close it off with a prayer for the maestro.
Can you hold it while I read it? Yes. This is something else my uncle wrote. He said, "But the journey one took to reach this place in time, this betrayal of history, misteaching of fighting, misleading of justice, stolen cultures, lost language. How are we to look into our own eyes with pride?" Let that sink in just let that sink in. This came from a man, like, who was awoke. And truth be told now, he woke me. Even though he's gone, he awoke in me. And I will try my best. I can't take his place, but I will try my best to fill those boots that he laid the foundation on, and hopefully I can finish building what he started.
Woo! Yeah.
Hi everybody, my name is River, and thank you for everybody who's made this day what it is. And I just want to give my blessings to Dread's family. Thank you to Maestra and the other people organizing this ceremony, to Chago, to Rockton 12, to Wes. I've been thinking all day about whether I should talk or not, but the last thing that Dread sent me via Facebook Messenger, besides a viral video that said, "Watch Obama go off on Trump," was a picture of a red-shouldered hawk that he took in Marina. And I don't know why he sent me this. He gave me no context. I do love birds, but I don't know how he knew this or if he knew this, but he sent me this picture of this beautiful red-shouldered hawk, and I identified it, and he said thank you. Another thing that he wrote that day, a few days before, was just the words, living with righting the wrongings of the past. Again, with no context. And he didn't say a lot, but when he spoke the truth, right? As we were over at Sun Street Park, and Maestro was finishing up the ceremony, and the family was giving the roses that are bound up that the sister has here, thank you ma'am, flying over us, I thought it was a seagull, but it was a snowy egret. And I don't know if anybody else witnessed that, but you saw it? It was a snowy egret, and it was flying and soaring over here. And I never saw that in Salinas, in that area, a water bird, a bird of prey that is angelic.
Right over by their house.
And beautiful. That bird was right by your house?
But they didn't show up. They didn't show up until after he passed.
And it didn't show up until after he passed? Yes. It showed up to that moment. And so that's why I'm speaking, is just to share that beautiful moment that I know not everyone witnessed. And when Chago kindly was saying, does anyone else want to speak? 3 crows flew over. So I thought, the birds, the spirits are here. Our spirits are here. And there is something larger than our mortal selves and our human selves. And I hope that we all continue to seek for justice and freedom. The freedom that birds have is a freedom that I pray that Dread has, and that we all will have as a collective Earth one day. Thank you.
This is probably my first time that I'm going to be here speaking like this. And for good reason, because usually I'm always taking pictures and video.
Just like Dread.
Just like Dread. I met Dread when I started getting more involved with Bhaktin 12 and the circles, talking about how we can engage with the community. And I met him there, and the first thing I asked him was what his camera lenses he was using, and then from there, it went on to like a 20-minute conversation. And we were quiet for like 2 hours before that, and then like we've all heard before, once he starts talking, he speaks the truth, and he says things that are good. I'll just keep it short. I don't know what exactly I want to say. I just wanted to he said he was proud of me, that I was here taking pictures, and we probably met like he said he was proud of me, and then after that first time we met about maybe 10 other times, but at every protest and event I would go sometimes myself, also with Baktun 12, and we'd always say hi to each other, get a little chat in, and you know, I have my reasons why I keep coming out, like we all do, but Dread is definitely one of those big reasons why I'm here today and why I'm going to keep coming as much as I can, because he's like a true inspiration to me, and I want to keep making sure that he's proud of me. So thank you for letting me speak. I'm very shy, and now I'm going to stop talking.
So if you look at how everybody is being socially distant in comparison to other individuals, it's affecting us all, affecting people. I want to thank you for being conscious of that, you know, and don't stop showing up, don't stop showing up for these things, because justice, you have to obtain it, it's not going to come to you. And basically what I'm getting out of today, not only Dread, but all of you, you're standing up for people that are oppressed, people that don't have a voice. So I'm proud to be in your midst. Chavo, Jamila, Robert Daniels, Wes, Rosalind, the people that were on the Zoom, and people I might have not mentioned, for allowing me to participate in this. I appreciate it. I'm not from Salinas. I never lived in Monterey County. I'm an Eastside San Jose homeboy. So I recognize. But somehow I started being involved in Salinas more than 25 years ago. We were asked to bless up the neighborhood with Antonio Navalos, right? Paz descanse. And people like, you're one group, you look at him as a certain way. What I saw him as someone that cared about the neighborhood. We walked through Las Casitas and all those neighborhoods, listening with Copal, and people always respected. And other individuals, when they had those football games with Brian and Bear, the ones from Soledad, all the towns, they had those football games like 20 years ago, trying to make peace, whatever it took. Any pendejo can make war, but it takes a real warrior to make peace. And we know who that warrior is, because his spirit's here with us. So my prayer today, just to close up, is to thank you all once again. Men, respect women. Please respect women. Don't just talk about it. I have 4 daughters, man. I have 4 daughters. I'll leave it at that. Respect women and your neighborhood will change. Thank you, women, for enduring, especially older ones. Thank you for enduring. And just ask Creator to bless everybody, all the women, all the men, and children, and elders, gender neutral, or whatever race you are. We're not against anybody. We are for justice and equality. Thank you.
Amen.
It's the lack of funding for the people across the street. They've got 200 cases they're fully staffed, 5 lawyers at a time, and they're stacking the charges on people that never even committed a crime and forcing them into plea deals. And that's what's keeping, a big part of what's keeping people suppressed. And I think that the community
But not in us. The personal relationship, not in the justice.
Just ain't specific enough. Once sun dies, the spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's what rolls us out on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up. When it go down, we willing to man up. They say stay down, and we stand up. Shots be on the ground.
Put your fist up! This is glory! Glory!
It will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure.
Dread forever!
Dread forever.
One voice!
One voice.
Now the war is not over. Victory isn't won. But we'll fight on to the finish. And when it's all done, we'll cry glory.
Glory, Wes! Never ever stop! Never stop! Never stop! Never stop! Never stop! We're the strong! We're the strength! Your foot! Your spirit! Your heart!
Now for every man, woman, and child.
Everyone.
Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. They march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never look back, we done gone hundreds.
Don't look back!
Heroes to become a hero, facing the League of Justice. His power was the people. Enemy is lethal. A king became regal. Saw the face of Jim Crow under a bald ego. The biggest weapon is to stay peaceful. We sing. Our music is the cuts that we bleed through. Somewhere in the dream we had an epiphany. Now we right the wrongs in history. No one can win a war individually. It takes the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. Welcome to the story we call victory, the coming of the Lord.
Victory!
One day, when the glory comes,
Glory!
it will be ours. It will be ours.
Don't give up, Wes! Don't give up, Daniel! Don't give up, SOS! Don't give up, Bessie! Don't give up, Rosa! Don't give up, River! Don't give up, veterans! Don't give up! Don't give up, grandkids! Don't give up, Sylvia! Don't give up, Rachel! Don't give up, Bro Bray! Don't give up! We are Dread! We walk Dread! Our strength is our struggle! We occupy! We occupy! Justice is ours! Because justice is us! Right now! Remember that bridge? That bridge is now! It's no longer a black and white society. It's all of us or none. That's justice!
Justice.
Justice!
Justice.
Justice! Peace!
No justice, no peace.
No justice, no peace!
No justice, no peace.
No justice, no peace! No justice,
No peace.
no justice,
No peace.
no racist police!
No racist
All of
police.
us, not none of us!
All of us, not none of us.
All of us, not none of us!
All of us, not none of us.
We won't be silenced! 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 We won't be silenced!
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate each and every one of you for making this happen, making this possible. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.
We love you.
Thank you, Jamila.
Thank you, Jamila.
Thank you, Bessie.
Thank you, Bessie.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.